What's up, everyone? Today we're going to be reviewing a book called Creativity Inc. It is a very new book and it's written by two people, one of which is the president of Pixar and has been the president of Pixar for a long time. If you don't know what Pixar is, it is the animation company behind some of the most iconic animation films. And the first animation film, full-length animation feature film of all time. And that includes Toy Story, Bugs Life, Toy Story 2, so on and so on, and Ratatouille, and on and on and on. And it's also the company that Steve Jobs founded after he got booted out of Apple, the company he also founded. So, just as a caveat, this isn't really related, but I have to say, everyone like idolizes Steve Jobs and they have a simplistic view of his life and how he was as a person based off what films have put out and the mainstream content that they skim over on the internet. And unfortunately, that's kind of how most people in life, in the history of humankind, really look at things, unless you're a historian or you take it fairly seriously. And everyone seems to think that Steve Jobs was always so good and it was such a tragedy and so unjust that he got fired from his own company and he was always perfect and he knew what he was doing with the company. But if you ask like any of his partners, any of the people around Apple, like Steve Wozniak, they tell you that Steve came back to Apple a completely different person, or at least very different from when he first went to Apple. He learned a lot about treating people kinder, being a better leader, understanding people's problems, and he came back with different mindsets and beliefs and perspectives that really propelled Apple from a point of near bankruptcy to what it is today. So again, it's like there's more to the story than just your assumptions. Anyhow, this is more so about Creativity Inc. And let me tell you first off what you might be able to learn from this book and why it may be useful. Now, this is part one to this video series on this book. I have not finished the book, and depending on demand and how much feedback we get, I might do a part two video to this. But right now it's just part one. And first off, what is this book useful for? I think it's very useful for anyone who is part of any type of team or organization or company that requires a lot of creativity, collaboration, and feedback, such as bouncing ideas off other people and your peers and your managers and so forth. So this could be an art company, this could be like a new, innovative, groundbreaking, cutting edge tech company with a lot of computer programmers, and you get the idea. And that's one of the big ideas behind this book, how you can most properly use that. And you're getting advice from one of the top people at doing this. And so anything along those lines, I think this book is very useful for. In addition to that, I think it so far seems to be a great book on management and working with people and structuring hierarchy in organizations to best propel creativity and success in that type of company. And so if you are a manager or you're someone who has the control or has influence in structuring hierarchy, whether it's a video game company or whatever else, this book I think is very useful. And he talks about things like structure and simple things like how you structure the uh, meeting room table and how you tell people where to sit and how the actual building is constructed to look. So Steve Jobs actually designed the entire interior of the Pixar campus, and he made it so that it was very collaborative, so that everyone was in a community and bouncing ideas off each other. In addition to that, the author of the book, one of the authors, it's a two-author book, he said that one thing that he screwed up on for a while, a long while, was that um, the way that the desks and the tables were organized at the meeting room was just really hierarchical and prevented real collaborative effort, and just set up this pecking order about which like the leaders were at like the center, that just kind of screwed things over. And he didn't notice because he was at the center, and he thought because he was included, he didn't really notice that everyone else wasn't as included as much. And so he noticed this and eventually changed not only the tables, but the name tags he put on the tables and a bunch of other stuff. So you can get the idea about how this book may be of use for this sort of stuff. And I think, if you want advice in regards to this, you might as well get it from the top people with many years of experience, many years of failures and mistakes, and success on multiple different levels. Financially, making a huge impact on children all over the world in terms of films and all this stuff. And he talks about all of this and how, although money is important, it's not the only factor. And there are, in his opinion, more driving important missions and goals and results that a organization or company can bring across. So you can get the idea about like what this book is for. And on top of that, you also, and I think this is very important if you're not interested in that sort of stuff, you can learn a lot of life lessons in just, your journey on your own pathway. So what I mean by this is that while you're on your journey, sometimes you might really like something, and you find something that many people don't find, which is that you have figured out something you're really passionate about. And the author of this book, he found that out at a young age. He watched Walt Disney do all this stuff on TV, and he really wanted to be like an artist for Walt Disney's animation company. And so he bought all these books as a child and was constructing flip books and all this stuff. And long story short, he realized he wasn't skilled enough to be accepted by the Walt Disney Company.